all over. And isn't it great, Robert, to be able to go downtown, drink any water that you want, any cup of coffee that you want, go to work and you can drink it, because that's what happened to us in Canton, New York. It took us 7.5 years, but we got it out of our town. So I know what it's like to be able to drink the water once once you've got it out. So it's a very exciting thing. So please, we've done the first. The first thing is to inform the people, educate the people. We've done the job, I think. We've done it with our webpage. We've done it with our videotapes. We've done it now with this book. We're doing it and continuing to do it with these presentations. Please go out, tell your friends, tell your neighbors, phone your council members, tell them that you're concerned, tell them to do their homework, and get it out of London. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. That's lovely. Now, we're going to have some questions, and please, I do hope there's some people in the audience that are for fluoridation. Please don't be intimidated. No, don't, please. Don't be intimidated. This is a democracy, and democracies depend upon open debate and not being intimidated. We know what it's like to be intimidated when we're the only person in the room that believes something. And it's easy to be put down. So if you're for fluoridation, don't hesitate to ask a tough question.
We have a microphone down here at the front. So I see some people very anxious to ask questions. Why don't we start right ahead? Go ahead.
Yeah, my name's Lauren Keith, and I actually took the City of London to court for fluoridation. They spent $17,000 to fight me. What I found out was I lost 25 pounds because they did something to the water. I just found out that they were doping the water with P2O5 acid, which is part of the phosphate fertilizer. So when they put it down to 0.01%. And then they turned around and they raised it up. They raised it up to 0.2%, which is a 20-fold increase, and actually put on weight. So it went down to like 242 pounds from 275. And then they started putting it up. It started increasing weight. And then this last summer, in August, I went for freedom of information. And the information I wanted, they wouldn't refuse some of it, said it was lost. But if anyone lost about 10 pounds during August, that's the reason. Yeah. The other thing is, when I took them to court, I suffered bronchitis. On the MSDS that they have for hydrofluoric acid, they say it causes bronchial pneumonia. Yeah. When they put it in the water, they said they started September the 1st, 1967. They actually started 2 weeks early. And that's when I got sick. I took them to court over it, and I had to leave London and move to Vancouver because I had so many cases of bronchitis. It was the only way to get over it.
Yep. Well, let me tackle two of those things. One of the things which some people that are sensitive to fluoride, and I've met them, is asthma. That some people that are sensitive to fluoride get asthmatic type conditions, but when they're exposed to fluoride. So the bronchitis fits into that, the respiratory problem. And secondly, I think the issue of phosphate, if I'm not mistaken, they add the phosphoric acid to the water to try to minimize the leaching of the lead. Lead phosphate is very insoluble, so they're trying to put a coating of lead phosphate on the pipes. That's what I believe what they're doing. So there is some rationale for doing that, but it's unfortunate what you've experienced there. The next question. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Ryan. I'm from London here. I go to Western and take psychology.
Yes.
So a lot of what you were saying was very good, and I know the systematic problems that go on about keeping this issue down. I haven't seen anything psychology books about fluoride yet, but I've always heard of it. The question I had about, on top of that kind of systematic thing is, you said that the dental industry was occupying pretty much the whole debate. I also heard that the aluminum industry was behind all of that as well, like mercury, arsenic, and well, basically the aluminum industry was getting their products out through Florida. But I didn't hear anything.
Now, there's a whole book, brilliant book, written about the beginnings of fluoridation. It's called The Fluoride Deception. It was written by Chris Bryson, who's a former BBC correspondent and producer. He spent 10 years writing this book, of The Fluoride Deception. And I've got a 28-minute interview with Chris Bryson on our homepage. You can watch the video online. And Chris documents the collusion between the US Public Health Service and these fluoride generating and polluting industries, Alcoa being very prominent. And in the beginning, the fluoride that was used to add to the water was actually sodium fluoride from the aluminum industry. At least some of it came from the aluminum industry. I don't think the aluminum industry today is selling their fluoride for water fluoridation purposes. But the thesis of Bryson was that in the 1930s, fluoride was perceived as the worst air pollutant, the most dangerous air pollutant from industry. It was produced by the ceramic industry, the glass industry, the oil industry, the steel industry, all the metal industries, including zinc, steel, aluminium, the phosphate fertilizer industry. And they knew after World War II the production of fluoride and production of their industries was going to shoot up, and that the fluoride pollution was going to increase. They already knew in the 30s that fluoride had done more damage to US agriculture than any other air pollutant. And so they were confronted with lawsuits from farmers. And what they skillfully did when they introduced water fluoridation is they changed the image of fluoride as a very nasty air pollutant into this nice cozy stuff that you could put on your cornflakes and give to your kids. So that's one of the arguments he makes there. And what is very interesting today is that one of the groups which is vociferously pro-fluoridation is a group called the American Council on Science and Health, ACSH, headed up by Elizabeth Whalen. This is an industry-funded organization. They've never found a chemical that they didn't like. They are funded by industry. They're funded by all the industries we've mentioned already, all the fluoride-generating industries, and also the food industry. And they're very strong advocates of fluoridation. And methinks the fact that they're still around, and when Peter Vallone introduced the bill in New York City to remove fluoridation, who attacked him? The ACSH. So I think that these industries still have a concern about liabilities of lawsuits from their own workers who've been exposed to fluoride. So there's a lot of politics there, a lot of economics there. So worth reading The Fluoride Deception. Yeah.
I just have a couple of things. First of all, Professor Joe Cummins is in the audience tonight as well, and he's worked quite hard at reviewing the literature on the leaching of lead with fluoride present in the water. We don't have a lot of time to go over that issue, but Professor Cummins is here if anybody wants to talk to him after the event. Secondly, there's a gentleman who needs wheelchair access to get down to the microphone, and he says he can bellow very loud.
Bellow.
Let's give him a chance to ask his question.
Bellow, and I hope you don't have horns.
I heard once and read somewhere that fluoridation was used by Nazi Germany on its meetings, and that was somewhat of an origin of that.
Don't go there. Please don't go there. There's nothing that the pro-fluoridation people would like more than us to go ranting around about Hitler and Stalin using fluoride in the concentration camps and the Stalin. First of all, we've got them on the ropes as far as the science is concerned. This would be the most beautiful escape. They escaped in the 50s. We had scientists, we had biochemists, we had Nobel Prize winners fighting fluoridation, and yet they were able to convert the opposition to the Ku Klux Klan, the John Birch Society, and then they made a movie called Dr. Strangelove, and we're all crazy people. And so they were able to convince the American public that the people against fluoridation were a bunch of wackos, right-wing nuts. That's the way they portrayed it. They could do the same again if we start ranting and raving about Hitler using it in the concentration camps. However, my wife and I checked this out. One of the groups we went to was the Wiesenthal Foundation. These are the people that track down Nazi killers, right? We asked them if they could find any evidence. They could not find any evidence. We think it's very unlikely. The Nazis were not ashamed or embarrassed about their human experiments. They were quite proud of what they were achieving by playing around with human beings. And so I think if they found a way of dumbing down the population using fluoride, they would have told us. It would have been documented. But there's no documentation. And there's all this study, all this stuff about Hitler using it comes down to one piece of information from a guy called Charles Perkins. That's the only documentation. It would not, trust me, it would not satisfy a historian. So please, don't go there for pragmatic reasons. There's another pragmatic reason not to use it. I do not think our enemy is our dentists or doctors. The enemy here is that those dentists and doctors are not reading the literature. That's the enemy. It's ignorance which is the enemy. The doctors and dentists. And I'm frightened that the moment you start talking about Hitler using fluoride, you're sort of implicating them in a horrendous plot, a very nasty plot. And I don't want to stigmatize dentists and doctors. And I think the problem for most of them is they're too darn busy treating patients to read the literature. And I have the time. I'm a retired professor. I can spend all my time on this issue. They can't. And the real problem is that they, despite not reading the literature, they are prepared, some of them, not all of them, some of them are prepared to go on a public platform and say it's safe and effective when they haven't read the literature. And that's not good.